It is the Blue Room. Welcome to another week of Everton. Loads going on. I should probably say, as Dave has been putting out on all of our recent marks, and we are the most listened to Everton podcast, apparently. Don't know how he knows that, but I will trust Dave. So thank you for listening. And we will get into talking about potentially another win at Goodison this weekend against Villa. Can Everton make it three in a row at home under Sean Dyche? We will talk about press conferences, about injuries, about all sorts. Joining me today to go through it all are Warren Doyle. Warren, how are you, mate?
Good, long time no speak, Matt. Hope everything's all right with you.
Yeah, smashing, mate, smashing. Rob Vera as well. How are you, Rob?
Doing great. Getting ready to fly out to Portland, Oregon tomorrow for a long weekend trip. My wife and I are going to see Bruce Springsteen in concert. It's our
Unbelievable.
big bucket list item that I'm checking off the list. So pretty excited.
I mean, I think I probably will give up Everton Aston Villa to see that, to be fair. Just about
Yeah.
know which one I prefer.
Yeah.
And also joining us is Peter Mack. Pete, how are you doing, mate?
I'm all right, yeah. I'm slightly jealous that Rob's going off to see Bruce Springsteen. I'm not going to lie, but yeah,
It
doing
puts
okay
everyone's
other than that.
it puts everyone's weekends plans into perspective a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if I can, I'm gonna brag, and I don't care that I'm bragging because I've never done anything like this before. I've never bought such good tickets to an A-lister before, but and I don't want to talk about it any further than that in terms of what it costs. But I will tell you that I'd saved up for a long time to do something like this, and we've got like 16 floor center seats for this. Like we're really. We're traveling there. My wife's got family up there. I'm excited. We wanted to do this right. So Saturday night in Portland, Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. I'm so pumped. I can't wait.
It's feeling really positive now. That's kind of brought me down a little bit.
No, it's good. Hey, look, I'm guaranteed to have a happy weekend is the way I look at it. And you should be happy about that, man.
We are. I'm very happy for you, Rob. But we will be watching Sean Dyche's Blues. Stick it to Aston Villa on Saturday, hopefully.
Yeah.
And do you know what? I asked for questions to start off with. And usually we finish at the end, don't we, with the questions? But I think Foxy asked a really interesting one there. And I thought that'd be sort of a good place to start as like a bit of an overall. And the question is essentially, does Dyche ball, in inverted commas, look as sort of what you would expected it to look like, and how do you like the look of it so far? Warren, I'll come to you first on this one, mate. I think I'm right in saying this is the first time you've been on since Dyche has been our manager. How have you felt about it all so far? I mean, obviously zeroing in on the first two home games, is it pretty much what you would have expected from Everton?
Yeah, I think if you'd have offered us the 6 points out of the 9 available since he took charge, we absolutely would have took that. In terms of Dyche's appointment itself, I've gone on record of being on the Blue Room as saying that I was always one I always wanted to back Lampard, always wanted to back the manager. I think it's got to come to a point, and I've said many times on here before, that we have to have stability at some point, whether it's this manager, the next manager, whoever. We have to have a period where we have a manager for longer than a year, 2 years, 3 years. So I felt a bit sorry for Lampard in that respect. I don't think he was dealt a good hand, but that's been and gone now. And I think what I've realised with Dyche is that he was probably the best selection for this group of players. Does that mean I think he's key for us long term? Not necessarily so, but I'm willing to give him the opportunity, willing to give him the chance. I think what he has done is he's made things very simple. And I think that's what we've had to do. We've had to go, sounds cliche, but we've had to go back to basics. He's given the players simple tasks and simple things to do. And whilst it might not be pretty football, I think we don't really care at the moment. I think as long as it's effective and as long as it's gaining points, there's no issue. For me, I got asked the question before the Arsenal game, will you stay up? And I said, no, not a chance. It's not going to happen. The Arsenal game happens, and then I got asked the question again, will you stay up? And I said, if you'd have asked me before that game, I would have said no. However, after that result, we've got a chance. The Liverpool game then came, and look, that happens every year. But it did feel a little bit like old Everton again, and honeymoon period was over. And then we get to Leeds, and I thought it was a great performance. I was nervous watching it, but really, in reality, I had nothing to be worried about. I thought Leeds were woeful watching it back, and I thought we did the job we had to do, which was simple, effective, get the 3 points. So he's been brought in to do that job, and what he's done has been effective. And let's worry about that for now. Let's worry about playing simple, effective football that keeps us in the league. And I think that for this season will certainly do for us.
Yeah, I mean, Pete, same question to you, really, mate. It's one of them, isn't it? I think it's the sort of football, certainly the Leeds game. It's the sort of game you look back and enjoy and take the moments from it when you're the other side of it and when you've won. But there were times where it was hard going, where the team wasn't playing particularly well. But it feels like that's sort of what we've got to make games about at the moment, isn't it? Make them tight, make sure we're defensively compact, and then just try and get home on a fine margin, be it a goal like Coleman scored or a piece of brilliance or a set piece or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, on a personal note, I absolutely love this type of football. Give me horrible Dyche ball all day, every day. I absolutely love it. Yeah, I think we've certainly in the position that we find ourselves in. I don't think we can expect anything else. I think that's what we have to do. We have to go back to basics. We have to make ourselves hard to beat. We're all more than aware of, we're all fully aware of the deficiencies that we have in the squad, especially in the final third. We all understand that we're not exactly going to go out and batter teams 4 and 5-0. We've got to keep it tight, and we've got to try and snatch the odd goal, and hopefully that's the way we're going to grind up these results. But yeah, I'm more than happy with how we're playing. Like you say, I mean, the Derby game was kind of a bit of a write-off for me anyway. I wasn't confident going into that game. I thought it was always going to be about these home fixtures for me to try and get these points on the board. But yeah, I'm more than happy with how we started off under Dyche, and certainly one of the big pluses for me as well is that there's a few players who've actually stepped up to the plate, players who were probably seen as, on the peripheral, under Lampard, the likes of Abdoulaye Doucouré, Dwight McNeil as well. He's put some fantastic performances in over the last couple of games. And yeah, it's starting to click for me. The one thing we'd obviously like to see more is if we could get, an earlier goal and potentially go forward and try and grab a few more just to make things a bit easier for us as supporters. Because I don't think I can remember the last time we actually enjoyed watching us play. But yeah, I think I'm certainly I'm a lot more confident than I was about staying in the league than I was even going back to three or 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, Robin, it's not just, I suppose when we talk about style of football, you talk about what you do on the ball and from an attacking point of view, don't you? But the 2 home games really against Arsenal and against Leeds, certainly the Leeds game, there's not really been a sense in any of those games that Everton are on the brink of collapsing like they did in matches against Brighton and Wolves and Southampton. It's felt like teams actually have to work hard and do something to score a goal against us now, whereas beforehand it was not really that case at all.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I first and foremost, I'm thrilled with the results, and the results are really all that matter. In the same way that, it's so weird because I feel like we're having the exact same conversation we had this time last year around the time Lampard got appointed, which was the bar is low. All they have to do is survive. And as long as they stay up, then it's job done. And so Dyche in some ways has the same bar, even a lower bar, because everyone's like, not only do we only just need to survive, it doesn't have to look good. We don't have to, we don't have to, like, the expectations are both low and high all at once. They're low from the standpoint that we expect to see nothing that we enjoy watching, and that literally finishing 17th place would be, everyone would be pretty thrilled with that. And they're high from the standpoint that I think this squad is so terrible. I think that Sean Dyche has been handed such a difficult hand. I applaud the way that he continues to lie directly to our faces by saying this squad's way better than ones I've had before. I think that there's a lot of quality in this group. He may, he's saying exactly what he needs to say. We have been, and maybe it's just the benefit of he hasn't had to watch these players for as long as we have. I would say that, to answer Foxy's question, I kind of did a little on Twitter, but I will just tell you that I am happy about the results. I never would have expected us to beat Arsenal. So to have won 2 out of 3, that's all that really matters. But in terms of answering the question about, well, what do I think about Dyche ball so far? I pretty much expected it to be a hard watch. even under the best of circumstances for Dyche, it's not like it's ever been fun to watch. Even when he's had, even when he had his best team, I think that made Europe. We would have we would be thrilled with something like that. But I mean, it's never going to be a good watch. Now, I would say that I am just trying my best, and I don't think this is a strong suit of our fan base as a whole, to not be a prisoner of the moment. And what I mean by that is, it's been 3 games. This club have won 2 games since October. This is an incredibly small sample size, and we have scored 2 goals. We have conceded 2 goals. We have 2 clean sheets. There's like a weird pattern here. And we have 2 wins. So you can squint and decide you feel a certain way about any of those. The 2 goals that we have scored, one was a set piece. Awesome. Love it. And we would love to see more of that. The other was Seamus Coleman putting his head down, not looking at the goal at all, and kicking the ball across like he has done a million times unsuccessfully, and had the flukiest of fluke goals that he can say he absolutely intended to do.
No,
it's fine. I don't care. Hey, the goal, he absolutely did. In the same way that when someone hits a half-court shot at halftime of a basketball game to win $10,000, that they knew exactly what they were doing. Like it's fine. I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter. The goal went in. We needed the goal. And this is not even really about Dyche, by the way, guys. My concerns, and I'm so after two wins in these 3. If you ask me the question, well, do I feel fundamentally different about Everton and their chances of survival right now? I still don't yet. I mean, it's only been 3 games, and that is not an indictment of Dyche. He has come in and, if anything, overperformed in these first 3 games in terms of the results, right? So that's all that matters. We can't. My concerns or my doubts about Everton surviving are very simple, guys. We don't score enough goals. I don't care who our manager is. This is not Sean Dyche's fault. Frank Lampard was left with the same issues as well, even when he got here too. Like, we don't score enough goals, and therefore we are susceptible to relegation, regardless of how organized we are, regardless of a lot of things. What you hope, though, is that level of organization and cohesion makes us just good enough to not go down. It's not to ask Dyche to suddenly find goals in this side, which he hasn't done yet, and that's not his fault, is probably asking too much. We have maybe the worst attacking group talent-wise in the entire league. So to me, for him to have gotten 2 wins out of 3 from this horrific group, and by the way, I watched a different game. Like, I'm happy we beat Leeds. We were all, I think we looked our best against Arsenal. We were awful against Liverpool, and I think we were less awful than Leeds. And the thing, and what I mean by that is that Leeds were so bad that our mediocrity looked great by comparison. And look, we that was a hard watch, Matt. Like, I think there's a lot of like, man, we did pretty good. It's because we won the game. And so therefore people are like, yeah, I think we performed pretty well. I don't know that I buy that we performed that well in any, except for defensively. And that's maybe all that matters.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't concede a shot on goal, but man, watching this team go forward remains one of the most painful exercises that there is. But I am all here for whatever way in which we can manufacture points. And from that standpoint, Sean Dyche has gotten off to a flying start.
Yeah, and like I said, there's a good opportunity for it to get better on Saturday. But we'll talk about that game and actual football a little bit. But it's been another busy week off the pitch. Pete, I'll come back to you first on this one, mate, because the club have done another bit of communication. And whenever I sort of see that or see it coming out, I do cringe a little bit about what's going to follow. I'm reading through that. I think it was a 13-page document responding to questions from the fan advisory board. I continue to cringe a little bit more, I'm not going to lie, because the club answered questions on everything from parking surveys to Sheikh Mansour being interested in the football club, Alicia Usmanov sitting in on interviews but not actually interviewing anybody. They commented on us being, up against the wall a little bit in terms of property and sustainability rules. it was just it's riled up a lot of people, hasn't it? And I think it's just my disappointment with it is that I think it's sort of indicated that the fan advisory board is being used in a way, I think, in which a lot of people feared it would be, in the sense that it is a club entity, and maybe, and I'm not blaming the fan advisory board by any means, because they came out to condemn the answers themselves and said that they need to be better and they have got concerns. But I think it's being used in a way to sort of push some club PR in the way in which they wanted it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's I don't really know what we kind of expected in terms of the answers. Obviously, we'd seen what the questions were going to be. They've been published by the fan advisory board a couple of weeks back. I wasn't surprised with the vagueness of the responses from Everton. It actually reminded me of the type of answers you get from a Tory MP. Those sorts of, they gave a lot of answers without actually answering anything. They didn't really say much. They didn't really commit to much. They didn't really give any kind of anything sort of controversial or any kind of real answers to anything. But again, I think the fan advisory board, I think in its purest form, the fan advisory board should be there for supporters to be able to put their opinions across and to basically deal with very basic things. I think when it comes to the running of the football club, I think it's totally redundant. I think it's a pointless exercise. I think when it comes to things in terms of actually running the club on a day-to-day basis, I don't see what the fan advisory board brings, to be honest with you. Because how do you wade through the comments? How can you make a decision on what comments need to be put to the board? It's a concept to me that seems flawed. I can see the benefits of it in some sense. Like I know for example, Julie Macon, who's the fan advisory board rep for Everton, the Everton Women supporters club. I know that Julie, for example, it's probably a smaller group in terms of the actual, in terms of who she represents. I know that Julie's putting some really pertinent questions to the club. I know that Julie is trying her best to try and get those answers from the club. But that's on a very basic level of things to do with, sponsorships, to do with the, things that are happening at Walton Hall Park. It's nothing to do with the actual, the actual governance of the football club. And I think when it comes to that, I just think the fan advisory board are totally out of the depth. And I just don't think that they've got the standing within the football club to be able to get real answers. And it just comes across as a bit of a box ticking exercise to me. It really does. And I feel for the people on the fan advisory board, I really do, because I feel like that they are volunteers. They give up their time. They obviously have the best intentions possible. I don't think that anyone could really slate them on a personal level. They're obviously going to have their own opinions about things. But I just think they're on a hiding to nothing. And I just think that regardless of what the club would have come out to say, I just don't think it was ever going to be enough. I think the only answer not every Evertonian, but in my opinion, the only answer that would satisfy me would be if one or two of the board were to make a decision about stepping down and being replaced.
Yeah, it is difficult, isn't it? Because like Pete said, a lot of people who do the fan advisory board and their intentions are great, and great Evertonians. But I think it's more, for me, the concern is that the answers that the club provided, in the sense that it feels very much like the Titanic's heading for the iceberg, and they're not really looking at it going, it's just going to disappear that soon. We'll be absolutely fine. Honestly, none of this is going to really impact us, and it just feels like there's a complete lack of awareness about the situation the club's in by some people.
Yeah, and I think unless you have a fan who is on the board itself representing the fans as a board member, you're never going to get in a position where you get exactly, like Pete said, exactly what you want in terms of answers from the club. I'm just looking at some of the key points that came out from the document, and some of the things that I'm reading here about how months of planning went into the January transfer window and the money was available and the club wasn't underfunded. That to me is a mockery, what they've told us there, because for me, I look at what other clubs have done, and I get that, maybe we're not in as a healthier financial position as maybe we once were, or maybe other clubs are currently. But I'm sorry, I think to see other clubs do deals very quickly early in January, and we've known, and I've been on before and I've said about how Rob made his assessments of the summer transfer window, and at the time I felt he was not overly critical, but I felt that it was a good window, not brilliant, but a good window. Rob was slightly more critical than I was, and as it went further on into the months in the season, and we started struggling, we realised just how much we needed, especially players in forward positions. And we've known, I've said this numerous times, we've known since we've known that Richarlison was always going to leave, and we've done nothing to replace that. And we've had 2 windows to do that, knowing that he was going to leave. And what sort of condemned it even further was the fact that Anthony Gordon's gone. We've got money in for him, and we've not brought in a replacement for a side that's struggling like we are. That's to me is criminal. I actually used the word on one of the shows before, one of the Blue Room shows before, and said, if we do not bring in 1 or 2, might have even said 2 or 3, if we do not bring in 2 or 3 attacking players, it is criminal. And we didn't do that. So for me to read that and document to say that months of planning went into, I'm sure people did work hard. I'm sure people did, like Sean Dyche said, were working through the night to try and get deals over the line. But to me, it just goes back to the fact that I think the board is out of their depth in terms of providing what Everton need. And it's not just from a transfer point of view. It's from a number of point of views. And it's just little things that happen, like the Lampard. Everyone knew Lampard had been sacked, but the club didn't announce it till the next day. And it was all over the news. But just little things like that. It's just signs that a club is in disarray further up the top. And, you know, again, touching on what Pete said, I've got no issue with any of the fans who are on the board. They've all got great intentions. They all want to make it better. But I think unless you have a nominated fan on the board itself, or 2 fans, the club are just going to put out what they want to put. And I get that as well. You know, they've got a job to do.
It's all for the club to answer, so like independent, like it's something independent from the football club to answer questions from them, I suppose, isn't it? That's the only way you're going to get, because it's fine putting out answers like that, but it's then the next step is being held to account for those answers, and people looking at them and going, well, what about this and what about that? You've said this, and you come back to you on that. That's not going to happen in this situation, is it?
Yeah, exactly. And there's no, they haven't got to give a specific answer. There's no demand or there's no rule that they have to say a certain thing. They can put out whatever they want and come out with, well, we've engaged with the fans. That's why we set up the fan advisory board. But I think you put it brilliantly, Matt, before. It is something that's being put in place for something that can put out really whatever they want to put out and say, and be satisfied. The other thing for me is the way that they've said AGMs will not return, but board members could provide updates in their own words. That to me is just board members hiding. I'm a member of a local sports team, and we have an AGM. Now, of course, that's nowhere near the level of a Premier League football club. I get that. But we have a yearly meeting where we answer to each other about finances of the club, this and that. Because if you're putting money into something, you deserve answers, in my opinion. And I think as fans, as custodians, we deserve at least an AGM where vet the questions, or, you know, request certain things don't get said or do get said. But that should be something that a fan-nominated representative on the board should be able to go to the board, and then that should be fed back to us through an AGM or monthly newsletter, whatever it might be. It just feels that Everton get these type of things wrong and have them for a while now, which is a shame, because I think there's some really good supporters out there who could do a fantastic job. We've got some brilliant supporters, brilliant fans who could really do a lot for this club and help us. So it's unfortunate it's not being utilised.
Yeah, Rob, what did you make of it? I mean, just reading through the whole thing, I could just imagine the people at the top of Everton getting this list of questions through and rolling their eyes, going, oh, God, do we have to do this, really?
Yeah, accountability is really annoying, Matt. You know, it really is. And there's no better way to evade accountability than by kind of creating a ruse that you are accountable. And the written Q&A is the classic example of that, because the great thing about not having to ever answer questions live, and it's not like, you know, Warren made a great point about the AGMs, like, you know, it's not as if Everton or any of these Premier League clubs ever really allow themselves to be open to much scrutiny, but they would at least do the thing where they had an AGM once a year and allowed people to ask questions and actually make these board members or the ownership a little bit uncomfortable, because they would be in an environment where they actually had to face someone looking them in the eye and asking them the question. A written Q&A is it is a politician's, a lawyer's dream. It is the, you can ask whatever, hey, we are open and transparent. Send us a list of questions. We'll give you answers. Now, we may not answer the questions that you have asked specifically, but we're going to give you some answers. Like, all you need to know about that exercise that we just witnessed was the question about Usmanov, because to my point, the question was, has Usmanov been sitting in on interviews? The answer from the club was, and what was it, guys? It was, Usmanov has never interviewed a candidate. Like, it purposely evaded and just didn't answer the question. The question wasn't whether...
He may as well have said he was not there.
Yeah, like that's all it was. Yeah. It was completely inappropriate for someone like that to just be sitting in the room and... So, but whatever, they've just, of course he was there. Lampard, I think, basically admitted he was there. Like, all that stuff is there, and it just shows you that, we can talk about process and we can talk about, what transparency looks like. And I think that we have had our expectations about what transparency and accountability ought to look like so whittled down to almost nothing, to where they now just have gotten rid of the AGMs and they just answer the questions they want to answer, and they don't show up to games anymore. And they can, there's someone going around, I guess, headlocking people at the club, and they got to get that under control. And there's all this stuff, right? But we have just gotten to the point, and I've been screaming this for years, guys, like, as long as the manager gets to show up once a week and answer a very, very select set of questions to which they can really neuter and groom down to, the most vanilla, boring questions ever asked by basically one or two people, and then combine that with the fact that the director of football never has to actually be in an open Q&A environment with media members. I think Everton announced recently that Thelwell is going to do some of these. The club is going to release these videos where he's going to start, talking about things. Well, of course, they are setting the agenda, and he is going to say pretty much nothing and make it seem like it's something. And that is kind of what we have come to, sadly, we have kind of come to expect. So look, the bottom line is this, guys, and I want to be as consistent as possible on this. As long as Farhad Mashiri owns this club, nothing is going to fundamentally change. And that is, we can demand board accountability and all these things. And, he'll throw us a bone every once in a while. But the answers to those questions in that written form tell you everything that you need to know about the club's willingness to engage in a meaningful and intellectually honest way. Like, they refuse to answer basic questions, and that's sort of par for the course. And for us to believe anything after he is, promised to sign players and promised to do that, and we got money for Anthony Gordon and didn't spend it, and we can't really explain why. We've got to really hone in on the fact that these gestures mean little, because this is ultimately a results-oriented business and an actions-oriented business. Don't listen to what Everton say. Don't listen to what Farhad Mashiri says. He can tell you that, hey, we need a striker, we'll get a striker. That doesn't matter. What matters is you sold Anthony Gordon for $40 million. You didn't reinvest a penny of that. And all I can see, based on the actions of what we're seeing right now, is that despite all of his remonstrations about the club not being for sale and the stadium is going great and everything's fine, this club is acting like a club that is selling off assets, pocketing money, not reinvesting it because they are trying to get sold. And, hey, I'm glad. I want Farhad Mashiri out of here as soon as possible. But don't insult my intelligence by acting as if that, we were going to sign someone when any club, it seemed like any club could go out there and make last minute deals except for us. Whether it was bad intent or incompetence, neither of those answers are good. Like, you can say, hey, Everton tried really hard and they just didn't do it. But ultimately, that's no better of an answer. That just means they're incompetent. So they're either incompetent or they're dishonest or they're both. And none of those are really good options for us. And none of it changes until Mashiri is gone.
Yeah, I did find just some of them hilarious, admittedly. And it's one of them now where people are so like, people were so adamant about communication, and now it's like I said before, every time they do anything, it's like, no, don't. You're just going to make it all worse. It's like,
yeah,
it's like that phrase. It's like it's better to people to think that you are stupid than to open your mouth and confirm it with beyond doubt.
Yes,
like,
just don't be seen. Everton, if they want to stay away, if they don't want to talk, that's probably better. Let's just finish out this season. We'll focus on the players and the manager, and just there's nothing good that is coming out of them trying to communicate.
Yeah, let's focus on one player in particular then. We'll rattle through these couple of topics before we get to Villa. Warren, I'll come to you, mate. Jordan Pickford is on the verge of, may have signed his contract after this goes out. I mean, not loads to say on it other than this is obviously good news. He's a really good goalkeeper and he absolutely deserves it.
Absolutely. I'm just a bit surprised he has actually signed it. I think Dyche confirmed it in the press conference, and it is being reported on BBC Sport now that he has signed. So, by all accounts, yeah, it's done and dusted. So, hopefully, as you say, Matt, by the time this goes out, it will be confirmed by the club. Absolutely delighted with it. He's proven to be one of the top goalkeepers, if not the top goalkeeper in the league. Maybe that's said with a little bit of bias from the Everton goggles on, but I refer back to the save against Chelsea last season. I don't think there's many keepers in the league who make that save, and that was key to us staying up in the end. That save, that was massive for us. So, absolutely delighted. And the thing with goalkeeper is it's a bit of a problem position. I think if you've got a good goalkeeper and you can hold on to them, you really need to do that, and you can set the rest of the team off then. I think when you find that a goalkeeper leaves or retires that's been an exceptional goalkeeper, it takes often 3 or 4 keepers to eventually replace them. I think back to, even Neville with us, Neville Southall. It took us a while before we finally got a good, decent, solid keeper in who we were happy with. And then, look at the likes of Schmeichel for United. They went through 3 or 4 keepers before they got a good one back. And it can be a problem position. So I think for us to nail down his contract is absolutely massive for us. I really do think it's huge. I'm a bit surprised, though. I would have thought that the position we're in, that maybe would have set his sights a little bit higher, maybe looked to move away. And he I wouldn't have blamed him if he'd done that, if he'd looked for, he was linked with Spurs, he was linked with Chelsea. He's been with a few clubs in the past, and I don't think you could have blamed him for wanting to spread his wings and, go and try and win something. But he may look at it as, do you know what, I'm playing regularly for Everton. If I'm playing regularly for Everton, I'm going to be England's number one for, the rest of, at least the immediate term. So, good on him. I am surprised he signed, but absolutely delighted at the same time. I think it's amazing that we've got him tied down, and hopefully that just gives us a little boost that we can build on that, and there's something there for us to build on going forward. And maybe he's been given certain assurances or certain promises. I don't know. Hopefully that's going to happen, and hopefully that bodes well for us into the future. So yeah, nice one. Really pleased he signed.
Yeah, it's mad, Pete, though, because obviously everyone's pleased about it, and it seems like obvious. Jordan Pickford signed a new contract. That's dead good. Duh. But there was a point where it could have gone a different way for him, wasn't it? You think after that game against Liverpool, the Van Dijk game, and when he was in the side after that, I remember he had like a few months of being pretty ropey. He got dropped for Robin Olsen, didn't he, when Ancelotti was here as well? And it felt like at one point, like, he was a big problem for us, and we were going to have to maybe try and get a new goalkeeper. And I think the fact that he sort of managed to come through that and has just got better and better, arguably since then, is, credit to his mentality and his belief in himself as much as his actual talent.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with any goalkeeper, I think one of the things about goalkeepers is that they do have a tendency to have a bit of a screw loose. And I think Jordan Pickford is one of those players, certainly, where you know that he's always gonna. One sec, sorry about this. I've just got my little dog Whiskey, and he's got this habit basically of when I start talking, he tries to get involved. But anyway, sorry. But yeah, Pickford.
Feel free. You can have a say on Jordan Pickford if he wants. Like, yeah.
Telling you. But yeah, Pickford. I mean, as this, going back to the whole Van Dijk thing and that sort of situation, you could see at the time is, psychologically he was obviously in a really bad place, and it was the right thing at the time to take him out of the side. a little bit, and I think he was managed really well. And that's another thing as well, is that, you know, at that point in his career, it could have gone. He could have gone one or two ways, and the fact that Everton stuck by him, and the fact that Everton showed him, you know, that loyalty, and the fact that Everton, you know, gave him that chance to prove himself again, and to be, you know, to be our regular number one. It obviously got him into that England side, into that England setup, where he's actually, you know, he's excelled for England. He's been absolutely fantastic for England. So I think he will be looking at it thinking, well, you know, this club's been loyal to me. I owe the club some loyalty back. The other thing to bear in mind as well is that it's just good business for Everton, in terms of, you know, as much as you don't want to be looking at selling a player as soon as you sign the contract, it's good that one of our more saleable assets has been, you know, has been penned down to a long-term contract. Because if, you know, the worst did come to the worst, at least we'd be able to get some money for him, which, you know, we've seen in the past, the amount of players who we haven't wanted on those long-term contracts have been able to see out their deals without any bids coming in. You'd like to think that if we did need to raise some funds at some point, I'm sure that there will be plenty of suitors for Jordan Pickford's signature. But yeah, I think it's a great signing for Everton, in terms of it shows that obviously players still have the faith in the side. He obviously shows that he's got the faith in the manager, and he still believes in the project that Everton are trying to achieve. It also means that he could potentially be our goalkeeper going into Bramley Moore, which I'm sure is something that he'll be looking at himself.
Yeah, 100%. Rob, do you think there's a bit of it maybe that Everton are hoping that he can play centre mid in the Championship next year?
Who, Pickford?
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, he's our best passer, right? No, hey, look, I mean, I think I've said this a bunch of times, Matt. You know, I've certainly talked through the years about the peaks and valleys of the Jordan Pickford experience, but I mean, he's just been so solidly, consistently good for a long period of time now. I definitely, there was a time where I wanted to move on from him, and especially just because I felt like if you have that many errors in you, then and he would go for a big price, then we had bigger problems to address. I think what's interesting now is that he's played really well. He absolutely deserves a new contract, new terms. If there's not, like, I think that he and his agents have probably looked at the current landscape right now, and there's not, you know, there does not appear to be a move this summer that is going to make logical sense. I think as soon as one of those moves becomes available, he's going to want to go, and I don't blame him for that at all. But since that move is not going to materialize anytime soon, he's smart to take the money. Like, you might as well be getting paid while you're here at Everton. And I have no problems with it, because he, unlike the vast majority of this squad, is earning his paycheck and maybe a little bit more. And so I have no problems with it. I think it's a smart move. I think that you always want to look after your investments. And if you've signed him to a fresh new contract, then that, at least in theory, makes an eventual fee a little bit higher if we're having this conversation, maybe not next summer, or this coming summer, but the summer after, or whenever. But Jordan Pickford has been consistently Everton's best player for, you know, a year and a half now. I mean, at least maybe 2 years. It's been a while, so I'm very happy that he has decided to, you know, put pen to paper on something like this. And I think ultimately, regardless of his motivations, or, you know, like, I don't really, contracts in this sport mean whatever they mean at the moment, but I don't really care about what the motivations are. I just care that Everton have locked down their best, or arguably their best player, you know, for a little bit longer. Locked down being whatever lockdown even means, but you know what I mean? Like, I think it's good that they have him under a new deal, just because I think it's a win-win for everyone. It's a win-win for Pickford in terms of the new deal, and it's a win-win for Everton in terms of solidifying a probably their most valuable asset at this point.
Yeah, 100%. There'll be many people disappointed by that. And yeah, hopefully it gets confirmed soon. Looks like a Iwobi might follow him as well, but we'll have a chat about that at another time when that one gets done. On to actual football then, Pete. Villa on Saturday. And they are about as mid-table as can possibly be. I think they're 8 points clear of the relegation zone, 8 points behind Europe. They've lost the last 3, although 2 of them were against Arsenal and City, but they got beat 4-2 at home by Leicester as well. Bit of a funny team, aren't they, under Emery? They've had some really good results. They've gone to Spurs and Brighton and won, but they've slipped up a few times at home and looked a little bit iffy. But I think from our point of view, I think it's going to be a game where, to go back to what Rob said before, it feels like we're going to have to play a lot better than we did on Saturday if we're going to come away from this one with a win.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing as well about Villa is that they do have a lot of dangerous players, a lot of decent players in that final third. I think this is potentially going to be our biggest test. I think the Arsenal game was a sort of a, it was the first game under Dyche. It was always going to be that we knew what to expect from Arsenal. We knew that we had to keep things tight, and we knew that if we had any chance, it was to sort of snatch one and sort of frustrate Arsenal. Leeds was just going to be going toe to toe with them and sort of see which one of us was less crap at the end of 90 minutes. And I think Aston Villa is probably going to be something similar to that. But I think the Villa, they do possess quite a lot of attacking talent. They are very dangerous, Aston Villa. But like you say, they're such a Jekyll and Hyde team, where they can go and get decent results against the likes of Spurs, but then they don't necessarily turn up every week. They've lost 3 on the bounce, which always worries me, by the way. As an Everton, I'd love to know what other fans of other teams think when they go into a game against a team who've lost 3 on the bounce. I'd love to do fans of other teams go into that thinking, yeah, we're full of confidence. As an Evertonian, there's nothing worse than us coming up against a team who've lost 3 on the bounce.
Look at Arsenal, who haven't lost for 5 months, and then we beat them. So it's probably going to work the opposite way, isn't it?
I'm telling you, but there's something about it. It's like that thing about if a player. Is there anyone for Aston Villa who hasn't scored yet for them, by the way? Can you think of anyone they signed in January? Because just
when they won a bit, didn't they?
Danny Ings has left, Danny. I was going to say,
yeah,
yeah.
I think Wendy, we were the only team he'd scored against for a while. He scored last season against us on the second day of the season, but I think he scored a couple more since then. So that one's put to bed. But
that one's put to bed. Okay, just have a look and find out. If there's anyone who hasn't scored for 5 years and put a bet on them. But yeah. But yes, I'd say it's we've had some funny little games against Villa in the past. I always remember that game when Schmeichel scored for them. We won 3-2. I remember that one where Ashley Young, where we managed to equalise. Remember the Jolie and Lescott one, and it was
we were shared to the Villa fans.
Yeah, and then it kicked off and Ashley Young scored. So we've had some really strange, 2 and back games like that where it's sort of end to end. So I just don't think that we haven't got anyone in the final third to make it end to end. So we need to just keep it tight and hope for the best. But yeah, I think it's going to be a huge test. I think Villa, they do have an array of attacking talent that we need to keep under wraps. But yeah, I'm still confident somehow. And hopefully we can make it 4 losses on the bounce for Villa.
Yeah, I thought they were quite good, Warren, last weekend against Arsenal Villa, to be fair. It was one of those games they could have won. They hit the bar, they had a good chance saved. And then they conceded a bit of a freak goal, and then obviously they conceded the 4th going for the equaliser in the end. But I think Pete's right, isn't he? You look at Watkins in particular, who's playing out of his skin at the moment. I know Bailey's been very hit and miss, but they are they've got a good squad of players there, haven't they? And I think it's going to be one of them where we have got to make it tight again. Because if we open it up and you let Watkins and Bailey and you give Buendia time on the ball, space to counter attack into, then we're going to struggle a bit.
They are the threats that can hurt us potentially. And I remember speaking to you, Matt, a while back, saying that we were talking about how we were in terms of if we got anyone who can get us out of the mess we're in. We referenced Villa and we said, do you know what? I don't think there's much between the sides. It's just that Villa seem to have 1 or 2 players like Watkins, Coutinho even, and Buendia, Bailey, who could produce something on the day that could get them up. I'm just looking at the table, actually, and I've seen that they've conceded 38 goals this season, Villa 8. They're one of the highest in the league. So they have got defensive frailties. If we can, hit that and come on top of that, we could be in for a bit of luck maybe. But I think we've got to be very solid against that attack that they have got. And might suit them coming away from home as well. You never know. It might suit them coming to our place. But then again, we're not exactly going to be, I wouldn't say dominating possession or being, all out attack against them. So it might be one of them games where, yeah, we might have to scruff it out again and see what we can do and hopefully pounce on their defensive frailties. But again, just looking at the table, we managed to get a win against Villa. We're only 4 points behind them then. And I know it's a big if, but for a side that is considered comfortable mid-table and safe from relegation, I think to be within 4 points of them just speaks volumes of how average their season's been. So yeah, it's also playable, but the home games are so key. The home games are so key. We've got a couple of big away games coming up, and I'm looking a little bit further ahead. We've got Forest coming up soon, which is going to be a massive game. But I think at this stage of the season, we've just got to try and pick up points wherever we can get them. I would actually take a draw on Saturday if, I think someone said before the Leeds game, this is one of the games that it's must win, but it's do not lose. And I think the same applies for Saturday. If we can come out of it with a point with, three out of the 4 games under Dyche unbeaten, fantastic. But there's definitely scope for us to hit them defensively and to get something out of this. And hopefully with the home crowd behind us, we can get something and we'll feel even more comfortable than we do at the moment on Saturday evening.
Yeah, it's one of them as well, Rob, where I know we won last weekend, but you look at the table and it's so tight. It didn't really feel like much had changed down there. But, this weekend, it's West Ham versus Forest in one game. It's Leeds versus Southampton in another. Bournemouth are playing Manchester City. If we win at the weekend, just by virtue of the fact that those fixtures are happening, then we could put some really, not massive game-changing distance between teams, but you're feeling a lot better about things, aren't you, all of a sudden? Because not all those teams are going to take points like they did last weekend.
Yeah, well, yeah, the results that have happened alongside our what are we calling this? The Dyche revolution or the skyrocketing up the table to 16th or whatever it is we're doing right now.
The surge. Yeah.
So they've not gone in our favor, but it also kind of lends to my theory or to my idea that there's really no point right now in focusing too much, especially day of the game, like what's happening around us. Like Everton, there's so much time to go still that Everton just need to take care of their business and not worry, but those things will work themselves out. You know what I mean? But yeah, like if we were to somehow win, well, I shouldn't make it sound like such a miracle, but if we won on Saturday, 3 wins out of 4, now you're starting to persuade me that we're seeing maybe something resembling a trend. I almost don't want to call it a trend because I'm afraid of that, but we've, tell me the last time we won 3 out of 4. It's been a long time. And so 2 out of 3, it's such a weird sample size given the context and who we played and all those things. But Villa are just a bang on mid-table, it's at home. Everton shouldn't be favored because Everton aren't as good as Villa, but I think that Villa are certainly beatable. They are very susceptible defensively. Unfortunately, we are equally, if not more so, inept offensively. And so I don't really know what to make of that. I think my concern is going to be with Villa is going to be the concern I probably have for any of our other games remaining, which is tell me whether or not we are going to score first. Tell me whether or not the other team is going to score at all. And then if you answer those questions, I have a good sense of how the game's going to go. Because right now, the notion of us scoring more than 1 goal in a game right now feels like a different planet, right? It just feels so unlikely. So we're living on such thin margins, and this is again goes back to our squad discussion and the transfer windows and all that. But if we can keep them out of goal, to Warren's point, a draw wouldn't be the worst thing. I'd like for us to obviously a win would be incredible under any circumstances. I just feel like with Villa's attacking quality, we're kind of in that plan of, well, we've just got to keep a clean sheet. And then what do we do if we don't? Like, if they score within the first 25 minutes, what then? What does the manager have to pull out of his bag of tricks that we don't really, that no manager has really been able to do for Everton for a while to address that lack of scoring? But look, Villa are very beatable. We are at home. We need to get a result. We need to find ways to put points together, manufacture goals, whatever you want to say. It's a decent opportunity, but as Warren said, we really just can't lose on Saturday. I think that's the main thing. You could almost afford a result here or there that doesn't go your way at home if we hadn't lost so many winnable games at home already this season. Like, now, and there's nothing you can do about it now other than try to flip the script and win these games. So without Calvert-Lewin playing again, surprise, I'm just wondering, where do the goals come from? Do we have an actual midfielder or attacking player who scores a goal for the first time under Dyche? Like, that would be amazing. I'd love to see that. So I guess we'll see how it goes on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a draw will be fine. I think it might be a draw as well, but yeah, here's hoping. We will leave it there. Just before we do go, actually, Pete, want to speak to you quickly about big game happening at Goodison Park next week on a Friday night. It is Everton versus Liverpool in the Merseyside derby. We are doing really well. They are not doing well. It's a great chance to see the Blues beat the Reds. Bit of a weird shifting kickoff time, but should still definitely be worth getting down there for it.
Yeah, it's the 24th of March. It is. It's in a couple of weeks' time.
Sorry, next month. Yeah,
next month. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, like throughout this season, where we've obviously been struggling, going to Goodison Park every week. This is the one fixture at Goodison Park I'm actually really looking forward to, where I feel like I know that I'm going to see a team who are going to we're going to fight for every ball, and a team who've got real quality, a team with so much attacking intent, a team with as I say, quality throughout. We managed to absolutely slap them at Anfield, beat them 3-0, deservedly so, absolutely battered them. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. I really, it's a long time coming. This Merseyside derby, in the WSL against Liverpool. We were meant to be playing them before lockdown happened. The first game was called off because of a gale. Then lockdown happened. Then they decided to get relegated. So it took them a couple of years to get back up. So yeah, it's been a long time coming, but I'm really looking forward to it. And it'd be great to see as many people down there as possible as well. Because I can't really understate just how much fight and heart and how much Everton Football Club means to these players as well. This group of players are absolutely incredible, and anyone who's been to see them at Walton Hall Park this season, or anyone who's seen them, perform on the TV or away from home, you'll know just how much this football club means to these players. And I'd just love to see as many Evertonians down there as possible to sort of show that love back to the players, because it would be an incredible occasion if we could get close to selling out Goodison Park. I just know how much it would mean to that group of players and to the manager as well. He's doing a fantastic job.
It's just said on Twitter there that 10,000 tickets have been sold already. So with a month in advance, that's brilliant. Fantastic. So that's should encourage everyone to go to that. It'd be a fantastic opportunity, I think, to support the women and get as many people down there. So to have 10,000 tickets sold already, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's great to hear that. Absolutely made us to hear that. Do you know what as well? We've got our one of the things about our supporters club as well. We're sat in Lower Gladys 3, I think it is. We're in LG3. So if anyone wants to join in with our singing section, get over to LG3 and join in. But yeah, it's I'm delighted to hear that, Warren, that we've sold 10,000. Let's aim for the next 10,000 now and try and get up to 20 and start creeping up. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, Matt.
Yeah, and the songs for that team are absolutely boss, because if you're not heard by them, you want to go back and listen to this. Pete interviewed a couple of the players not too long ago and sung the songs back to them.
Yeah,
and see if they could guess which one it was. And they're so much better than the songs we've got for the lads. Absolutely. So
I'm telling you, we've got like a whole songbook. There's like a whole songbook. Like one of them is Jess Park's song. So obviously we have to use like Park Life by Blair. So we've got this. They've all been well thought of. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of thought goes into these songs, but yeah, it's fine. And also I interviewed Meg Finnegan last week, so if anyone hasn't listened to that, listen to that one as well, because Meg actually made a suggestion for another song that she wants us to sing. So yeah, there's a lot of interaction going on with the players as well. You see the players really enjoy it, but they also sort of get involved with it. They really do appreciate the support. That's one thing I would say about the women's game as well, is that the players really genuinely they've got so much time for the supporters, they've got so much time for the fans, and it really means the world to them as well. So yeah, carry on, encourage them.
Pete, what's it like to have access to interview Everton players? That sounds.
Oh yeah,
are you making this up? Is this like, are these actual real Everton players?
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess women can articulate their thoughts and speak for themselves at Everton. That's interesting. Like I wonder if the men could someday have that kind of ability.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Well, they are brilliant, Rob. To be fair, they are absolutely brilliant, and yeah, it's nice. But as I say, I'm part of the Everton Women's Supporters Club, secretary of the Everton Women's Supporters Club. So Everton have been great with us in terms of letting us speak to a lot of the players, and again, I think a lot of it comes from just generally having a good relationship with the club and with the players as well. We do make an effort to try and improve atmospheres and things like that, and Everton have been kind enough to sort of help us out at the Blue Room as well, to make sure that we can get some good interviews and good content as well. And obviously Matt's been speaking to Everton for a while about it as well, so it's really good, really honoured as well. Really good, big honour for me to be able to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Do go and check out that
awesome.
interview
Nice one
with Meg Finnegan. She's been absolutely boss for ages for Everton as well. So well worth a listen. Yeah, we will do loads of build up to that game, of course, as the weeks tick by. But we'll leave it there. Cheers to Pete, Rob, and Warren. That has been your weekly show. Hopefully the Blues do the business this weekend once again. Up the top east. We'll speak to you soon.